Hello, Sarah here. I'm here to have another conversation for the sake of ourselves. The conversation I'm here to have with you today is a conversation around anger. Anger. What is your relationship to anger? Who are you when you experience anger? How does anger show up for you? How do you treat anger when it shows up for you? So right now, this is a very relevant conversation for my life because there are some things happening in my life that really has me experiencing anger. And so I thought this would be a great conversation to have because I do find with myself through the eras of my life, for my family and the people I know, and for clients, our relationship with anger, it's something that a lot of us grapple with and we struggle with. A lot of us were raised to think like in environments where anger wasn't really allowed to be expressed. Anger was dangerous. Anger was bad. It was wrong. Some of us grew up with parents that were really angry that, put us to really fearful places when anger comes up so we can have a reaction to anger when it comes up. Others were also, in environments where there was anger and they, took on anger and learned ways of being with anger that had them be very angry and outputting a lot of anger and not necessarily processing the experience. So, I find this a really valuable communication because, anger is really valid, really valuable, really, really, really valuable, has a lot of great communication for us, has a lot of great information for us, and is a really important part of being human. It really does let us know a lot of important things and how to maneuver what we want, what we like, etc. We're going to talk about that shortly. So, anger is not bad. Anger is not an enemy. Anger is, something that doesn't need to be avoided. How and who we are with anger is a skill. It's a relationship that we get to build and cultivate so that we can, output, express, and have the anger move through us in ways that support ourselves, that are helpful for ourselves and our health and well-being and our mental health and our emotional state and, our relationships in our life, and also can be supportive for the people around us and not cause damage or harm. Because unfortunately, anger, when left in certain ways or left unchecked or handled in certain ways, can cause a lot of damage and harm, internally. Like, I don't know about you, but I don't know if your interest is the health and body at all, but my interest is health and body and well-being. And, the cost of anger on our body is quite high. Like there is quite an impact of an angry system. There's like a really cardiovascular impact on ourselves. There's a really mental load impact on ourselves. It's like every part of our body and systems are affected when we fester and sit and be angry in non-productive ways. So really, it's about building a relationship with anger that can be productive, that can be supportive, that can be helpful, and that can provide a lot. So anger is not something to be avoided. Anger is not a bad word. Anger does not make you bad if you're experiencing anger. Anger is something that can be expressed. And it's also important to get that it is a practice as we learn these things. There you are, here you are, and you have the current relationship with anger that you have. So, and that's actually a great place to start. When I say anger, what occurs for you? How does anger occur for you? Is anger and then look at for yourself, how does it occur for you when you're angry? Like if you are experiencing anger, do you get nervous or fearful? Do you get locked up? Do you feel you need to get rid of it fast? Do you feel that, anger shouldn't be put out loud? Anger shouldn't be expressed. Anger needs to be kind of avoided or put away. Are you somebody that is angry a lot? Are you somebody that notices yourself, with a background or a default of anger, walking around pretty angry? And then also take a look, how are you with anger around you? How are you with, angry people around you? If somebody came up with to you experiencing anger or showcasing anger or outputting anger, how is that for you? Is it something that you get kind of shut down or meek or passive or wanting to appease or fawn? Is it something that ignites you and gets you wanting to fight and get angry back? When somebody comes at you with anger, is it something that you want to just, I'm out of here? Or is it something that you even shut down around? So, taking a look at how you currently experience anger within yourself and around yourself in the environment that you are, it gives you a lot of good information of like where are you currently at with your relationship with anger. So again, anger is a very normal, healthy human experience. It's really part of our spectrum of our experience and provides us a lot of information and a lot of value. So, take a look for yourself. Who are you and how are you currently with anger? And now when I say, the communication anger can provide. So think, right now, take a pause and take a moment to think of a time when you were angry. And maybe even you're angry right now. Maybe it's not too far off in the distance. Maybe, you can really notice, hey, I'm actually experiencing some anger now, or there's something I am angry at, or there's something I am angry about, or there's something that, anger is really easily present for me. I know myself, I still have quite a charge of anger still in my system that I'm in the process of moving through and getting all the communication with. So, it's really right here accessible, very, very, very accessible for me right now. So, it's really great to take a look at yourself and right now and bring yourself to a moment when you have had the experience of anger. There you are. What were you angry about? What made you mad? What made you furious? What made you livid? And take a look. What kind of communication was that anger communicating to you? I know for myself, like the experience that I'm having, I'm not going to go into details because they're pretty personal, but the experience that I'm having, it's like, I'm frustrated. I'm livid. I am so freaking angry. It's right there. And it's like, I can feel it in my skin. I can feel it underneath of my skin. I can feel it wanting to spike every part of me. I can feel my blood, that expression, blood boil. I can understand where that comes from. Like, I feel like my blood gets hot, things get faster. There's a lot of energy in my system wanting to move through. That is kind of like my experience of anger. And it's letting me know right away. It's like a really fast communication to say, alert, alert, stop, 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 pause, pause, pause. Something doesn't work. You're angry. Something for yourself is a no. Something you're just like, no, this is not okay for me. This does not work for me. So like my personal experience and my understanding with anger, and it's quite vast. So, there's more to it than just this. This is a very simplified way to look at it. But my experience with anger is it's really immediate, fast communication and information to let you know, alert, alert, something isn't working. Something doesn't work. Pause. Stop. You are a no right now. There is important communication that is up against either a value of yours, something that's important to yours, a guiding principle of yours, something at the core of your nature or core of your being. And again, whether that's a default or whether it's something created, sometimes we get angry from triggered places that are just bumping up against past conversations that we've held tight to our core that, we're ready to release. And as we inspect, we notice we can, notice the anger and release it quite easily because it's something that we've already deemed, something from our past self and not necessarily something right now. But generally speaking, anger is letting you know, alert, alert, something isn't working. Often anger shows up when, we're afraid, in the background of anger, there's often something I'm really scared about. There's something I'm really sad about. There's something I'm really disappointed about. There's something that, I feel isn't going in the direction that I want to go. So it's letting me know, alert, alert, you might want to take really good stock. You might want to. So take a look, like, there you are, you're angry, you're noticing yourself mad or livid or furious or upset, or, that anger is right there in your system. How does that anger feel in your body? Where do you feel the anger? Where, like for myself, I notice it all underneath of my skin. I notice it like stabbing little bits. I notice it actually in my ears when you hear the expressions like fuming. It's like, it is, I can feel it in my ears going, like it's almost like the inside of my head. It's like it's going to explode. I notice like when they also say the expression like your blood boils, like I can feel my blood get hot, like I'm getting hot inside. So notice yourself, like when you experience anger, what does it feel like in your body? And this is an important exercise. Like, I guess letting you know why it's important is important. It's important to get related to how anger feels in our body, because sometimes some of us have been so trained to, step over anger or not experience our anger or express our anger. Or some of us let our anger kind of build up and build up and build up until it's kind of like exploding out of us. So the more we can get aware of the experience that it feels like in our body and in our body sensations and how it shows up for us, the more we can get related to our body's cues of letting us know, because our body is cueing us to let us know, like, alert, alert, you're angry here. There's something that you're angry about. You're experiencing anger. There's some communication that anger has for you right now. So notice, there you are. If you're, you were livid or you were mad or you were angry or you're furious, how did that feel in your body? How does anger show up for you? What do you notice in your body sensations and your cues about anger? And, you can look at your thinking, like when you're really angry and furious and mad and livid, like I notice for myself, my thinking gets really fast. It can get really fast. And this is the tricky thing. It's like anger can hijack our thinking system. Anger it gets so fast. It's like everything comes in so quickly, which is communication in itself, letting you know, like, there is something here that needs your attention. There's something here that you want to take a look at. You want to pause, stop, that like gets to, there's something important here to communicate, but it shows up again in our body system and in our emotion system and our mind system. So it's great to just have an understanding and awareness of how anger feels in your body, mind, and emotions and across the layers of yourself, so that you can be highly related to when anger comes in, so that you can be with the experience of anger and get the communication that anger offers and allow it to move through you, but not dictate you. Because just as we talked about the other day in one of the conversations of, you have your experience and then there's being, this is the same with anger. You can have the experience of anger, like, oh my gosh, you have the experience of anger and it has a lot of information for you. It's important information. Just like if you were experiencing exhaustion, that experience of exhaustion has very important information to you to say, go rest, go take a nap, go, look at your physical health, go nourish yourself, like, put in what your needs are. Same with anger. If you are experiencing anger, there's information here to you. There's, things letting you know you have needs here, you have wants here, you have yeses here, you have no's here, you have something that's getting stepped over, you have something that's, rubbing up against something that you're not okay with. That's really needs your attention right now. And, but that experience of anger can get so big. And especially because most of us, unfortunately, myself included, have been trained, or conditioned, or, through our lifetime up until now, it has been, societally acceptable that, anger isn't really a societally acceptable experience to, showcase. So, we tend to pull it back. We tend to dissociate or numb from it or step over for it or just trying to throw something on top of it. And so we've been kind of trained and conditioned to not notice our anger or to not let it be seen or expressed. So it is, in my opinion, extremely important for us to, in building this relationship with ourselves, building a relationship with all of ourselves, then build a relationship with your experience of anger, because you're going to experience anger in your life many, many, many times. Like, really, if you're interested in living any kind of life that matters to you, there's going to be times where you're going to bump up against stuff that you're going to be a no to, that you're going to be upset with, that you might even be furious with or livid with or angry with, and it's like all going to be right there. And none of that's a problem. It's not like we're trying to get rid of anger and the experience of anger at all. It's just we get to build what is the relationship we're out to have with anger. Like, I know the relationship I'm out to have with anger. I'm interested in meeting myself right where I am. So that includes meeting this experience of anger right where it is, right how it feels in my body, right how it feels in my mind, right how it feels in my emotional response system. And being with it, allowing for it, allowing it to be there, and allowing myself to get the information and communication that has value, that experience of anger is letting me know. So it can move through me, and anger doesn't have to come out in my reactions. I can actually respond in the face of anger. I don't need to react in the face of anger. Anger doesn't have to have me. I can have it. So again, back to that like experience and being conversation. When you're experiencing anger, there can be a real pull to be angry. And notice the difference. There's this experience of anger that legit, we feel it in our body. We feel the, fast-paced stuff happening in our mind. We feel our emotional response system going ding ding, lighting up like a Christmas tree. And that's very valid, but that's the experience of anger. And there is a pull then to be angry. And that's where you might just want to catch yourself or watch. And again, not even like it's a problem to be angry, because there can be really healthy ways to be angry. And, that's something we might get into today. Depends how long the conversation goes to, but can be a future conversation if we don't get to it today. There are lots of ways we can be angry in really healthy ways, and that is really valuable. But first, just notice like there's this experience of anger and a pull to be angry, a pull to be mad and upset and like how does that show up to you? So notice your experience in your body with anger and your mind and your emotions with anger. And then notice and look for yourself. And this is a great chance again to have this great loving relationship with yourself where you bring compassion and understanding. This isn't about judging. This is just about getting the observational, aware, neutral snapshot of yourself of how you currently interact with anger. But how does that pull for being angry look in you? Like if you are being angry, how do you show up when you're angry and you're being angry? It's again, good information to have so you can notice like nothing's wrong with being angry, but admitting to ourselves how we might show up when we're being angry is a good understanding to have so we can work with ourselves. Because one thing I find A, for myself, and B, for the people that I've worked with, and definitely my kids and family members as well, we can get to a point in our anger that we become not proud of. Anger can be such a hot, fast, quick charge and experience through us where we feel helpless to and don't have a lot of skills, tools, or grounding. And we can really get thrown off course and off track of who we are at our core. And so often when we are angry and being angry, we come out of the experience or out of the situation not really happy with how we did react and how we did respond and how we showed up as and who we showed up as. So often there can be shame or guilt or remorse for the amount or how we operated in that anger. And again, not a problem. I don't want you to judge any of it right now. Like it's not about judging it. It's just about being honest and admitting to yourself, how are you when you're angry? Like, how are you when you're angry? How does it show up? Like, do you really output? Do you throw things? Do you yell? Do you Do you stomp your feet? Do you get animated? Do you get, mean? Do you get, do you just want to fight? Do you just want to claw and upset? Do you want to break things? Do you want to wreck things? Like, do you want to just go for a walk? How do you act when you're angry? And when I'm talking, might as well make a really big example out of it. Look for a time when you were really, really angry. Look for a time where the anger was really big, that it had you. Be really honest with yourself, not out of shame or guilt or feeling bad or remorse, but just as getting a snapshot with yourself of how are you when you're angry, and get just really real. How are you? I know in the past, I have had experiences where I can get really angry and I am not proud of myself. It's almost like, again, you get hijacked. You can go blind to your anger and, oh my gosh, I've thrown things. I've got upset. I've got mad. I've yelled. I've screamed. I've name called. I've done all kinds of things when angry and brought to such states of anger. And then afterwards, I think we all have had that experience of that afterwards. There can be such remorse, such oh, shame, guilt. I wish I didn't react like that. Like, what's wrong with me? Sometimes we can really see ourselves, that part of ourselves, as a monster, or, is dangerous and something to be afraid of, which then just kind of implements a cycle that our anger is dangerous or something to be afraid of or something to be avoided. And then we even more try to tamper down our anger, or, push it away or push it aside or put something on top of it. Then we're still getting farther and farther and farther away from then being with our anger and being with the experience that anger is offering. And our relationship with anger can get really fragmented. It can get really dissociated or fragmented or skewed in different ways that doesn't support future times of being angry. So this conversation is really meant, again, for you to cultivate your relationship with anger so that you don't have to be afraid of experiencing anger or even being anger, because you are cultivating a really fantastic relationship with anger. One where you're not avoiding anger and pushing it away. One when you're not terrified of anger and getting overwhelmed. One where you can actually be really grounded and assured and connected and spacious with your anger, and even arms around with your anger. And I'm somebody who loves preparation, and by taking a look ahead of time at how we can prepare for ourselves in our anger and prepare for the experience of anger and prepare ourselves with skills and tools, then we're actually setting ourselves up to win in our relationship of anger. We're setting ourselves up to walk away from the experience with anger, proud of ourselves, and again, that might be a practice and a process. You might not always, start out proud of yourself, but you can come to anger, experience anger, be angry, get it for the communication it is, express what you need and what you want and put your needs in, and come out on the other side seeing the value that the anger offered you, the value that you were with the anger, and the value your relationship with anger brings. So this conversation really is about you stepping into saying your relationship with anger matters, because anger is a part of you. And by saying it matters, then you actually have a say in the type of relationship you have with anger. So, all of that was just taking stock at how do you currently, when you're angry, you're experiencing anger, how do you currently experience anger? And how do you currently be when you're angry? So just to get a snapshot. Now, if you're not satisfied with that, take a look. Like, how would you love to be with anger? Without saying that, oh, I just wish I just wasn't angry and I could just be all zen and all peaceful all the time. Like, great. Sorry. You're likely going to still experience anger and upset and getting mad. So, how would you like that to go for you? Who would you like to be in the face of anger? Who would you like to be when you're angry? How would you like to handle yourself or know yourself? And then take a look. What do you need for that? What do you need for that? What kind of tools might you need for that? When it comes, some really great tools, if you're not already aware of, are just different regulation tools can be really handy to slow down the experience, so that because anger can be a really fast charged experience. And so, regulation tools can help slow down our nervous system and slow down our body's reaction system, and so all of our systems can get some breath and some room, so we can be with it in a little bit more of a stable, grounded way. And I find it really starts with really accepting or owning or including that the experience of anger is really valuable and has a lot to offer. It has a lot of really good information, because as soon as we, just kind of come from the context and concept that that's the case, that take the case that your experience of anger, as soon as you start to feel that hot blood or the fuming ears or the whatever, it's like, I'm experiencing anger and there's some information that's really helpful and valuable and something I need here, something's important, is such a great starting point for how to be with anger. Because at that moment that we can just say it has value, there's something valuable here, alert, alert. And then also saying, anger can be hot fast and it can be destructive, or it can cause damage or cause me coming out on the other side that I don't like. How can I be with my anger? Okay, so I'm noticing all the body sensations and mind sensations and emotional response system sensations of experiencing anger. Alert, alert. I'm angry. I'm experiencing anger. I am going to then have whatever process you want to create. And this is kind of what I want to talk about next, is the process you want to create when you're experiencing anger. What would serve you? What would serve you to slow down and be with your anger to get the communication of it? Now, sometimes it's so hot, big, giant, explosive, you're livid, you're furious, oh my gosh. Sometimes you just need to give yourself a really safe place to go be angry. Go be like expressively angry in a really safe place. Like maybe you can't even get the communication because, again, as soon as the anger does happen, there's a whole biochemical, reaction happening in your body. Your body is getting, your brain is getting flooded by different biochemicals. That's, really does honestly hijack a lot of the frontal cortex of your brain and part of the thinking system of your brain. Like you start to go to a much more lower primitive part of your brain that's much more reactionary. So getting that, okay, that's not going to serve you amongst people if your connections are important to you. And that also might not be the best place to, make decisions from, or, come from anything important from, because like you've cut off a huge part of your thinking system and a huge part of, your tool and your resource. So you might want to wait until you're back at a calm and steady state to, really interact with others, or to, problem solve or get solution based at that point, or even communicate what your needs are. But first, just take a look, like, let's just experience the anger. There you are experiencing the anger. You're angry. What do you need in that moment to just allow it to be in a safe way so it can move through your body and output, and you can then be a space to actually receive the communication it has for you? Because initially when at least my experience, initially when I'm angry, I am so hot that I necessarily can't get the communication the anger has for me. I can't get what is the undertones, or what's actually there, or what's actually bothering me, or what my needs are, or even to articulate the words that I would need to say to have myself supported. So I know for myself, when I get to that like hot place, that angry place, there are some certain things I need. Like, first of all, just saying to yourself or anybody that's around you, like, whoa, I'm experiencing being really angry right now. I'm really upset. This is not a time to work anything further out. I need to take a look at this. I need to address this. I need to be with my anger. I need to be with this experience of anger is a really important part to start with. And then inside of your relationship, and this is so personal to everybody, so it's almost tricky to talk about, because I don't want to say there's any right way. There's not really any right way. You might find there's some wrong ways, just, in the amount of damage or destruction it causes, but there's not any really right way to allow for your anger to process through. There's lots of different tools that can be supportive. So for myself, I noticed, depending on where I am in that scale of how big the experience of anger is, let yourself first off, experience anger and be angry if that's so necessary, and do it in a safe way. Like, what would be a safe container for you? Like, I find taking myself outside into nature in some capacity is helpful. Putting my feet in water, sand, dirt, rocks, super helpful and grounding. Holding dirt, rocks, sand, leaves, super helpful. Sometimes, getting some old boxes in the recycling and stomping, just helping it move through you. This whole idea of like letting the anger move through you so it could come out and be released. It's valid and has information. And You know, if you're somebody that needs to yell and scream, like depending on the environment, scream into a pillow, go into a room, go out by the ocean, go, you know, wherever is a safe space to go do that, like go do that if you find value for that. I personally am not overly a big, huge screamer. It hurts my throat too much. But yell, like do what you need, like output. Like if you need to get it out, get the anger out, please, and do it in a way that's safe and leaves you and the people around you intact. There's nothing shameful or harmful in any of that. It's really valid. It's a real stuff moving through your system. So find a way that's supportive for you to output your anger in a really safe way. You know, there's different things about like splashing water on your face, taking a shower, going for a cold dip, going for a run, going for a jog, moving your body, you know, getting down and doing some push-ups, doing a plank. Like this might be a bit of trial and error for you. You can, you know, go onto the internet and search different, you know, things. What can I do when I'm experiencing anger? How can I output my anger? And there's likely lists and lists and lists of ideas of things that you could trial that work for you. And the thing is, remember, your frontal cortex, your front thinking part of your brain, your main part of your thinking system is shut off from thinking by the time you get angry. So this is where I find, especially with the experience of anger, take a look in advance and have even, you know, even on your phone, if you're really taking on your relationship with anger, you might want to even have a notes app on your phone that has a list of your go-to things, because again, your frontal system is going to be out. You're not going to remember until it's a really well-worn habit. You're not going to remember what your go-to tools are to output anger. You know, you might not have the ability to even get a space of pause to think about that. So, you know, be prepared, you know, do the work now. Like what the next time you experience anger, the next time you're angry, how would you like to be angry in a safe way? How do you want to experience anger in a safe way? What kind of things and practices do you want to trial or do when the next time you experience anger is? And write that down on your notes app and put it on the front thing of your phone. Write it on a list on the fridge. I don't know, depends how angry you get. If you're getting angry throughout your day really often, write it right on your arm. So it's like right there. And then as you find your, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 top go-to, you know, things that help you output your anger, you know, you get more and more of a practice of them and more of a practice of them. And once you find your go-to things, like it does start to become a more well-rooted pattern where then you experience anger and you can go to your well-rooted, you know, grounded ways that help you output and express anger. And again, none of this is meant to diffuse or lessen the anger. It's meant to allow it to move through you and out of you. If anything, I recommend for people that have some grounding already with their anger, to in a safe environment, in a safe container. And what that looks like for me, that doesn't include any children around you, that doesn't include any, you know, loved ones that you're angry at or with. It can be, you know, a supportive partner that's there to be with or witness your anger, but, you know, really take a look at who your safe people might be that's appropriate to be with that anger and set that up. But otherwise, it can be just yourself solo. But go and be, you know, 10 times more angry. Go and be like super angry. Go and be like extremely angry. Go and be like over the top angry. Like really experience it. Be it. Let it out. And then as you kind of go through that experience of anger and it really starts coming out and coming out and coming out, and you start to get a bit more to a state where, okay, you sometimes can just tire yourself out or burn yourself out. You get to a bit of a place where it's like, okay, what's this anger saying to me? What is it actually letting me know? Why am I so angry? What is actually going on? And as we're asking these questions, you know, this is a time where you could pull out a journal and paper if you want to write it down. And, you know, just you might even want to angrily write it down. Or you can get your notes app on your phone, or you can just internally or externally, you can also just talk out loud to yourself, depending how you like to process through and ask yourself questions. But you can ask yourself a series of different kinds of questions and ask yourself things that you're inspired by as well. But you can say like, you know, what is this anger trying to tell me? You know, what don't I like here? What don't I want here? What am I upset about? often anger can show up when we're sad, disappointed, or afraid, are some really common times anger does show up. So it can be kind of a bigger expression of like, we're really angry because really, we're really heartbroken underneath. We're really sad about something. We're really upset about something, so you can ask like, what am I really sad about right now? What am I really disappointed about? What do I feel really let down about? What do I feel really scared about, worried about? Where do I feel helpless? Where do I feel powerless? Where do I feel victim? Where do I feel somebody's taking advantage of me or somebody has the upper hand? Where do I feel attacked? Asking yourself these kind of questions can be helpful to get some of the communication from your anger. What do I need to say? What do I want? How do I want this to go? What do I need? And again, all these questions are you asking yourself. You're not out there with another person, especially not the person that, you might be angry with. These are questions you can be asking yourself just to get, again, related to this experience of anger and what it's trying to communicate with you and why it's shown up in your body and your system. And it helps you give it a voice. It helps you give it validity. It helps you get some understanding of what's happening. And the more footing and relationship you build with your experience of anger, the faster this process becomes, because you do get to understand what that anger generally is telling you. Like I do understand often when I get really, really angry, I'm usually either really scared about something or really sad about something, like really disappointed and sad about something. And so it's like the anger can go really quickly and fast when those two states for myself show up. So as soon as I start asking myself, what am I really sad at here? What am I really afraid of here? It gives me some really good information. And then with that, I can be like, okay, I got it. I am. So is there anything I want to do about that? Is there anything I can do about that? Is this something that I need to accept? Is there something I need to say? Is there an action I want to take on that? Is there, something I just need seen, heard, and gotten? And then after you've collected the communication from your anger, now's a really great time to be really great with yourself. Wrap your arms around yourself. Okay, I got it. I hear it. I heard it. You're safe. You're loved. That was big. That was big. That was tough that was some tough spaces to go through. How are you doing? I find touch is a really great way to help our nervous system calm back down to a regulated state, but do what works for you. Look for then what regulation tools can you put in place that help you come back to a grounded and steady state after experiencing such big feels and getting that communication. How can you then support yourself on the other side of anger and coming out of the experience of anger? So again, some people find rocking helpful. You can either go into a swing, on a hammock, or just rock yourself, hold yourself. You can ask somebody that you love or care for a hug. That's a safe person. Might not want to go to the person you just had an interaction with because there might not be a repaired space yet to go forward with, but do what's appropriate, stroking, petting your arms, your hair, your face, taking some deep breaths. Again, this is a time where you could put your feet on the ground, put it into some dirt, put it into some rocks, smell some roses, smell some flowers. Like what's something that brings you back to a calm, steady state? Have a sip of water, have a drink with even like lemon or mint in your water. Anything that really helps your senses and all your sensory system to come back into a steady state is really supportive at the end of such big feels. And feeling such anger, and especially when you're first starting to build and cultivate this relationship with anger, it can be really helpful to have some things thought ahead of time of, again, what are you going to do when you're angry? What's going to support yourself to move through the spaces of being angry? And then how are you going to support yourself coming out of the spaces of anger? How are you going to come back to a regulated, grounded, cared for, intact space for yourself? And then once all that's done, then you can take a look at what you're going to do with all that communication from, again, now, hopefully and ideally, a much more grounded and regulated space where you're feeling empowered, where you're feeling steady, where you're feeling back home to yourself and safe in your body and in your systems. So again, that's a lot to talk about anger. That was a lot in one go. And meet yourself right where you are. You know, everybody's experience is really personal. Everybody's process is really personal. If you are somebody that really grapples and struggles with your anger, please seek support. There's so many different supportive professionals that can help you gain the tools and the skills that you need. This is just, an inquiry. This is just an inquiry point for you to take a look at what is supportive and helpful for you so that you can be in the driver's seat of your life. You can build and cultivate this fantastic relationship with yourself and all of yourself. And that includes the parts of yourself that can experience anger and get angry and what needs to be seen, heard, and gotten in that time. So there you are. I'm going to end it here because that was a long one. Oh my gosh, that was a charged and long one. So there you go. Have a fantastic day. Take a look for yourself. What do you plan to do next time that you experience anger? What kind of supportive tools will you put in place? And what kind of relationship with anger do you want to take on and to have? Okay, till next time, from the sake of ourselves. Bye.